today, but I'm excited to talk some Tigers baseball.
Well, I was feeling like you, Daniela, all over the road, but don't we have a new open for WoW? Wasn't that a new open?
Did you
Unless
see
I
that?
haven't paid attention. I mean, great job, fellas. I mean, I had never seen it before. I'm thinking either I really have attention deficit disorder or that's a new open. So
that is a new
good
open.
job.
You're not
All right,
crazy.
good job. I'm not sure who's responsible for it, but good job there, guys.
Well, I'm glad you noticed, Art. You looked great in
yeah,
it. Your hair looks great in it. Your hair looks great
yeah,
today, as
really.
always.
Oh, yeah, really, it really does. It's a work in progress. Yeah, in a way, we're kind of used to the Tigers have been pretty good in September. They had a nice long run there. The World
Right.
Series and stuff. Certainly, they've stubbed their toe the last couple of years. But I mean, what's going on right now is very, very encouraging if you're a Tigers fan. I mean, I'm pretty jacked. I'm pretty excited. My slogan has been, "Why not the Tigers?" That 9-game losing streak, I had to kind of tone that down a little bit. But now I'm right back there. Why not the Tigers? So I'm happy about that. But certainly, there's no better time to go to Traverse City than in September, middle of September, like we have done or I have done for more years than I care to remember, covering the Red Wings, whether it be training camp or the prospects tournament, up there for about 11 to 12 days. It's always great, hanging out, knowing a lot of people. I always like the fact that after the prospects tournament, the prospects get a Sunday off. That Sunday off, they play, until like the round robin games or the playoff starts. They play a bunch of games and then they have a Sunday off. And the last couple of years, all the prospects have gone to different places. They went to like the fire department and in Traverse City one day, and I got to cover that. And last year they were at a shelter for animals, the Cherry Tree or Cherry Hills shelter. So, it's that kind of stuff too, especially when you get to see all the young guys kind of interacting and all that. And then, they're all feeling really good about themselves. Then they'll play the prospects tournament. Last year, the Red Wings won it. And then boom, then the real team shows up, or the real Red Wings. And, they go from being, the top of the mountain. It's kind of like, I would say this. It's kind of like when you were in elementary school and at least in my game, when I was in 6th grade, I was feeling good about myself. But then when I got into 7th grade, we went half days in Livonia back then in 7th grade, millage issue. Millages were always big back when I was a kid. People hated them, but I didn't even know what a millage was. Like, it's a tax. It's a school tax. Anyway, or in this part. So anyway, then you get into 7th grade, you're kind of like, oh man, now I got to start over again. But by the time I got into 9th grade, I'm feeling good about myself again. And then I had to get into 10th grade, and there I was back at the bottom. And then in 12th grade, I'm feeling great. Then I graduate, and it's like, holy, what the hell am I? I got to go to college because all I know how to do is go to school. And so, so I mean, I know this is a really strange rant I'm on right now, but I just figure I just kind of miss that aspect. And what I really like and why I'm so encouraged about the Tigers too, I like watching these young kids mature into professional athletes, Detroit professional athletes. And, that I'm going to miss. But with that said, I'm pretty excited because the Tigers have some nice young prospects on the team right now who are performing really well.
Well, let's get into talking about those Tigers, Art. We'll get into the big three presented by Chevy. And our first topic, of course, is a Tigers update. And we are going to take a look at some highlights with the Minnesota Twins from that series. The Tigers had an off day yesterday. So these are from Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at those. Victor Reyes, the 1-2 pitch, hit well to right center, and it falls all the way back at the wall. Reyes is going to show off his speed here, and he's going to go for the triple. Here he is rounding second, and he's going to get there. A head-first slide. It's a leadoff triple for Reyes. Miguel Cabrera up now, and this is a big one. Miggy gets his 2,000th hit as a Detroit Tiger, and it brings Reyes in for the first run of the night. Miggy just doing Miggy things, another milestone and a 1-0 lead for the Tigers. And of course, he's addressing the large crowd at Comerica Park after that one. It's a standing O for Miggy. Top of the second now, and here's Casey Mize facing another jam. He's got runners on the corners, and this pitch hits the dirt. Grayson Griner is unable to stop that one and make the play, and now we have a tie ball game on a wild pitch. Top of the third, it is still 1-1, and Jorge Polanco at the plate with no outs and no one on. He gets a hold of this one and sends it deep to right, and this one's out of here for the solo shot, giving the Twins a 2-1 lead. Top of the fourth, Tyler Alexander now on the mound for the Tigers. Lamont Wade Jr. at the plate, and that's a good start to the day for Alexander. He gets Wade swinging for the first out of the inning. Still in the top of the fourth, it's Alex Avila at the plate, a familiar face to Tigers fans. Tyler Alexander also gets him swinging for back-to-back punch-outs. Now we move to the bottom of the fourth, Jeimer Candelario. He sends this one high and deep to right field. Max Kepler finding himself at the wall, and this ball is gone. The Candyman does it again, a solo shot to tie this thing up at 2, and he extends his hitting streak to 5 games. Jump to the bottom of the sixth, and another hot bat in Jonathan Schoop up for the Tigers, and here's a line drive to left field. This one stays inside that post and fair for another solo shot. The Tigers take a 3-2 lead. Top of the seventh, now Joe Jimenez on the mound for the Tigers, and here's the 1-2 pitch to Nelson Cruz. He swings and misses. Jimenez with a huge strikeout on Minnesota's best hitter to retire the side. Top of the eighth, and now it's Buck Farmer getting in on the action. He gets Miguel Sano looking at this one for his first strikeout of the day. Top of the ninth, and Gregory Soto is in to close this thing out, but not without a little trouble. 2 outs, and Ryan Jeffers keeps this one alive with a base hit. Next batter up, Max Kepler sends this one to center field, and this one is an easy grab for Jacoby Jones, and the Tigers have their first 3-game sweep of the Twins since September of 2016. It's a final score of 3-2. The Tigers get the win with solo shots from Jeimer Candelario and Jonathan Schoop, and of course, Miguel Cabrera driving in that third run on his 2000th hit as a Tiger. Art, I think Ron Gardenhire said it best. It seems like every time Miguel Cabrera gets a hit, they're keeping that ball. It's milestone after milestone for Miggy. He is truly one of the greats.
Well, no question about it, Daniela. He is certainly one of the best hitters of his generation, probably one of the best hitters in all of baseball. You know, I've said this many, many times. At one point in his career, during his Tigers career, and, you know, even when he was with the Marlins, although he wasn't with them very long, he was must-see TV. I mean, every time he was up to bat, he was certainly, you know, the old cliche, worth the price of admission. Look at that, 2,001 hits. You know, I think Ty Cobb's record's pretty safe. I don't think that anybody's ever going to get to achieve that. Actually, Cobb had over 4,000 career hits. He went to Philadelphia for a couple of years, but look at that list. You know, Gehringer, Kaline, Heilman, Crawford, Sweet Lou, who should be in the Hall of Fame, Trammell, and Cabrera. I mean, that's some, you know, those are Hall of Fame ball players, you know, including Lou Whitaker, by the way. But I'm on that kick, you know, Lou in the Hall. But, you know, that's pretty impressive, you know, and it's good to see. You know, it's good to see because everyone was saying, hey, you know, he can't catch up on the fastball anymore. He being Cabrera, you know, they throw it up, the high, hard one, he swings, he's going to miss. But, you know, what great hitters do is they make adjustments. And Miguel Cabrera, much to his credit, because he's had some injuries the last couple of years, has started to, which I thought he would do, but, you know, has started to figure it out and, you know, becoming a true leader, leading this club. And he knows this is a young club, kind of finding its way for the most part. And, you know, what he's been able to do lately is such a settling influence. When you have Miggy going, just think how much pressure that takes off everybody. Pitchers, you know, everyday players, the whole organization when Miggy's doing his thing. And then, of course, Jonathan Schoop has just been, you know, kind of a godsend. I know I'm being melodramatic here. And you know, Casey Mize, you know, he didn't have his control. He hit 3 batters, gave up 2 walks, you know, so he gave a couple of hits. I'm not worried about Casey Mize. I just like his bulldog attitude, the way he attacks. Tyler Alexander doing his thing, picks up the win. And who knows, Gregory Soto, whom I'm not sure which guest we had on about a month or so ago, called Gregory Soto a closer in waiting. And I'm not taking anything away about Joe Jimenez. I think that Joe can can regain that spot. But Soto looks pretty good, and he throws the heat. I mean, he's at 98, 99, 100 consistently. So when you look at it, the big picture, I'm pretty encouraged by what I'm seeing right now from the Tigers.
I think we all are, Art, and I know Carly Johnston is too. Let's bring her in for our second topic of the big three, our Clubhouse Notes. Carly has been listening to some of the press conferences from Al Avila and the players and Coach Ron Gardenhire. So, Carly, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Daniela. A little bit of what you guys were just talking about, although we know it was an off day for the Tigers yesterday. The organization definitely went to work before the trade deadline. As we know, Al Avila spoke to the media following the cutoff, in which the Tigers traded Cameron Maybin to the Cubs for minor league infielder Zach Short. So let's hear what Avila had to say about Zach Short as a player.
From a makeup perspective, he's one of those guys that managers love to manage because he's a high energy guy, kind of a baseball rat that plays hard. He's a very good shortstop. From our reports and from our data is that he's really major league ready right now from a defensive perspective. He's got some pop in his bat.
You love to hear it. Pop in his bat. You heard him say he's major league ready. So fingers crossed that we can bring him up and see what he has to offer for the Tigers team. Also yesterday, the Tigers acquired Pudge Rodriguez's son. How funny is that? Right-hand pitcher Derek Rodriguez from the Giants. Avila recounted seeing him at the ballpark as a young kid, and now he'll be playing in the system. How incredible. What are the odds? So let's hear what Avila had to say about him.
When Pudge was here, he was just a little kid running around in full uniform, and he would go out there and shag balls and hit in the cage. And so he was one of those kids that was hanging around from time to time. Grew up in the game and knows the game very well. And he's got Pudge as a mentor.
Pudge is a mentor. I mean, you can't really have a better one, can you? But we're looking at a series starting tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers. They've been hot as of late, and after Sunday's win, Tyler Alexander spoke to the media about the Tigers staying in it this season. So let's hear what he had to say about possibly making a playoff push.
We know we're talented, and we know we have a chance to do something special and shock a lot of people. We have that mentality even when we're not winning. And so I think that's what helps us reel it back in when we do sort of run into a bit of a rut.
I think we'll definitely be surprised this season. We'll see what happens tonight. We know the Tigers are at 500, but tonight will be the deciding factor if the Tigers will be over or under 500. My guess is over. What do you guys say?
I'm going over too, Carly. You got to be optimistic in this situation, right? They're making a really good push. Their offense looks great. So I'm going over as well. Thank you so much for joining us for this, Carly. Always great. And of course, we will see you later in the show for Let's Socialize.
Absolutely. Fans, make sure to send in your messages and we'll answer them. Your questions, we'll answer them later in the show.
That's right, guys. Use that hashtag word on Woodward. And Art, I do want to ask you a little bit of a follow-up there. We talked about the Maybin trade going to Chicago for the infielder Zach Short, a prospect of the Chicago Cubs. What did you think of the trade personally? What do you think, or what kind of move was this for the Tigers?
Well, I would think that it's probably an organizational depth move to a certain degree. I think that, Zach Short is a guy that, the Tigers had to go on their scouting reports from basically last season. They really haven't seen too much of him this year because you couldn't do any scouting or see these guys. He was on the Cubs roster. He was rated their 21st overall prospect. Now in Detroit, he's rated number 27. But I think this is a guy who can probably come in and, he has a little bit of pop in his bat, as Al said, and he can play all infield positions. He's supposed to be a supreme fielder. So I think, depending on, what happens here and injuries and all that, I mean, we only have 28 games left in this season. So will we see him? It sounds like maybe we will, maybe for defensive purposes, and see what they have. Eric Rodriguez, it sounds like to me is that he has potential. He was with the Giants. I mean, he's pitched in the major leagues. So It sounds like, it's kind of, and I don't know if I should be comparing these guys, but it's kind of like when they brought in Carson Fulmer, who they have since designated for assignment, because he has a live arm. There's something that they like to see. They wanted to work on his mechanics. I think that Eric Rodriguez, a change of scenery, coming back to a place he's very familiar. You heard Al say he's kind of walked the field as a little kid. He's worn that Old English D before. Certainly was like a children's small or something, but he still has. And so, maybe, here in a situation he's familiar with, playing with his dad's old team, and the Tigers pitchers, they can work their magic with him and maybe change a few things mechanically, and he can be a very I don't want to say serviceable, because that's almost a negative term in my mind, but that he can have an impact on this Tiger pitching staff. The Tigers, pitching wise, they're looking pretty darn good right now.
And it's getting better as the season goes on, Art. As we mentioned, there was an off day for the Tigers yesterday, but tonight we have the Milwaukee Brewers on the clock, and we just got the Tigers lineups in. So we'll take a look at the starting lineups for our third topic of the big three. And leading things off tonight will be Victor Reyes. And then closing things out, number 9, Willie Castro. Is there anything in this lineup, Art, that you're surprised about, or what are you looking forward to in this series with Milwaukee?
Well, I don't know if I'm surprised. Obviously, the first 4 guys have been on fire lately. Reyes, Jonathan Scope, Cabrera, and the Candyman. I think Negro is slowly but surely pulling himself out. Jacoby Jones also. I mean, he started off really hot, got a little bit banged up, but now he's coming back. Christian Stewart, I'm a little bit concerned about, just because he needs to hit for power, needs to work it out, and but Grayson Griner catching. I know Andrew Romine, I think he has like a knee tweak or something's going on a little bit. And this is like, I believe, the 3rd game or something that he hasn't caught. But, the Tigers have a couple of double headers coming up. I know they're only 7-inning games. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, when I look at that lineup, exactly Grayson Griner, is he going to have to do a majority of the catching as Romine kind of works out his his injury issue? But and Willie Castro, this is an opportunity for him. I mean, the talk right now has been Isaac Paredes, and rightly so, because the kid, he's wise beyond his years, as we've heard from Gardy, who keeps telling us that. But Castro has an opportunity tonight to make some noise and not be a forgotten Tiger, if you will. So formidable lineup. Michael Fulmer obviously pitching 3, hopefully to get 3 strong innings. We're going to talk about that and bet you didn't know a little bit. And then followed by Daniel Morris, and not tax that bullpen. So we'll see.
Yes, we will talk about the Tigers more in just a little bit. That wraps things up for the big three, you guys. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the big three. Chevy cares. Sorry about that, you guys. I just lost my Chevy read there. When our country is faced with adversity, we find a way to get through it. To help keep you on the road, Chevrolet service experts are here and ready to help. Should you require parts, routine maintenance, or repairs, Chevrolet and its dealers remain committed to your vehicle needs. Visit ChevyCares.com to learn more. My apologies, everybody. Now, we are going to move on to today's mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars, and today's guest is Tigers play-by-play announcer Dan Dickerson. Dan, you've got to be feeling pretty good today. The Tigers are coming off the sweep of the Minnesota Twins. You got some rest last night. You got to be ready to go today.
Hey, it's September, and the Tigers are playing meaningful games. What's not to like?
There is everything to like right now, Dan. I agree with you there. We'll get right into this one because we've got some great fan questions for you. And the first one is for you, Dan. Kevin from Romeo asks, Skubal and Mize are here. Boyd looked great over the weekend. Which starter is the most exciting to watch right now?
I think, and this is no slap to Michael Fulmer, who's struggling right now. I actually like watching Michael Fulmer, and I think he's going to start to put together some good 3-inning starts. But when I looked at that rotation, the original rotation that's set up for the Minnesota Twins series, 4 games, and you had, I think it was Boyd, Skubal, Mize, Turnbull. That's an exciting lineup right there. Those are four guys. I like watching each one of their starts. You knew that Boyd was going to get it together, and he has. And I really won't be surprised, given the massive improvement we've seen from him the last two starts, to see him get on a roll and really stay at this level for the rest of the year. He's been that good. You knew it was in there. It just hadn't come out to the first five starts. But every start of Skubal and Mize, you're going to look forward to, every single one, because their stuff is special. Matty Boyd went back to, look at that right there. That ability to get that swing and miss on the high fastball, setting it up by throwing a lot more changeups. He's changed everything by using that changeup more. It's made all of his other pitches better. But when you get to Skubal and Mize, these two guys, Skubal is special. Jim Price, my broadcast partner, has seen just a few games over the course of 5 decades. He says it's the best left-handed arm in terms of the complete package that he has ever seen in this organization. It's just electric stuff, but it's not just the fastball that's 97, 98, and yes, he touched 99 the other day, but it's 4 pitches, and all of them have the chance to be plus pitches. The slider, the curveball is new. He's thrown it, not a ton, but it looks like it could be really good. Casey Mize, I know, has struggled his last couple of starts. You guys talked about it. He knows what he has to do. This is a guy who figures things out pretty well. It was just, to me, a surprise just because how good he is that he struggled for a second straight start. He'll put it together. And then the guy you don't want to forget about because he's been so good is Spencer Turnbull. Right now, this rotation, let's face it, a week ago, it had a 7 ERA, above 7 ERA. It looks so different right now. There's still going to be those bumps with Skubal and Mize, 2 rookies. But it has a chance to get on a pretty darn good roll. That guy right there has been terrific all year. He had 1 dud start where he just went 2 innings, but he's pitching with a lot of confidence. It seems like he figured some things out his last time out. There's no question about the stuff. And Spencer Turnbull is right now, along with Matt Boyd, leading this rotation. But again, those 4 guys, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Dan, even aside from the starting pitching, Sunday's matchup with the Twins, we saw Casey Mize start the game, but then Tyler Alexander comes in, and he pitched pretty well too.
Alexander and Daniel Norris right now are 2 MVPs on this pitching staff because of the job they've been doing in long relief. Not a glamour role by any stretch, but we've always said that a good long reliever on a team with a good offense, and this offense has gotten much better this year. It's above middle of the pack now, which is pretty impressive. A middle reliever on a team with a decent offense is invaluable, and these guys have put together a lot of zeros. Tyler Alexander struggled for a couple of relief appearances after his start where he struggled, but this seems like the perfect role for him. He comes out, he's firing bullets, he's firing strikes. He got back to that, almost like that outing where he struck out 10. It wasn't quite that good, but just pitching with that confidence and get swings and misses. Those were 3 2/3 huge innings the other day after Casey Mize struggled. And then Daniel Norris has basically done the same thing. Those 2 guys, to me, are just, because the starters are generally going short, I think we're going to start getting a lot more out of Turnbull and Boyd. But you still got to think that with Skubal and Mize, and Michael Fulmer's only going 3, these guys remain huge pieces down the stretch, but I love watching both of them pitch.
A lot of positive pieces to build on right now, Dan. Art, your question number 2, is a Red Wings question. Lucas from Pontiac asked, Philip Hronek was the latest wing to be loaned to a European team. Do you think this is the last Red Wing to be loaned out?
Well, that's a good question. Right now, there's 5 of them. We have the Phils, as I like to call them, Hronek and Zadina in the Czech Republic. Lindstrom is in Sweden. Bromia is back in Sweden as well, although we haven't seen him play, but the Red Wings signed him. So when you look at it from that aspect, I'm not sure how many more guys, prospects, are going to leave. I don't know if any of the American prospects can go. I don't know if Americans are being accepted around the world now or not because of the pandemic. So I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what's going on with college hockey. It appears that they're practicing, and I know that they have a lot of high-end college prospects. I know Temisto, whom they drafted last year, he was so good, he didn't play in the Swedish Elite League, or the Swedish Hockey League as it's called now, because he wanted to go to the University of Denver. He didn't want to affect his eligibility. Is Denver going to play? Is Temisto going to do that? I think the big question is that the guys that are playing in Europe right now, the 5 Red Wing prospects, it's not so much. It's going to be what happens. What's the future of the AHL and the Grand Rapids Griffins? Will they play? What's the future of college? Will they play? And then I think that will sort itself out. If there is a lot of uncertainty, maybe then more prospects will end up going to Europe. But there's another thing, and when the Wings signed Robbie Fabre, we were on the call. And I know that some Red Wing officials have alluded to this. Who's to say some of the young Red Wings? And we talked to when we talked to Todd Bertuzzi, he was saying like guys like Glendening and older Red Wings and DeKaiser and those guys probably wouldn't consider playing in Europe, but young Red Wings, and he did mention Bertuzzi, Mantha, and Larkin. Who knows? They've been off the ice for a long time. They want to compete. There's no really world competitions going on right now where they could represent their respective countries. So, I think the thing to really look at is not so much prospects being on loan to Europe. Will Red Wing players themselves decide to go to Europe and play? Just and they would be on loan, which means that a European team, let's say Double D's a great hockey player. He's he's a current Red Wing, 35 goal scorer. He hasn't played in 10 months. He's thinking, I got to go over to Europe. Well, will a European team, because they know as soon as the NHL gets started again for the second half, he's leaving. So do you want to just sign him because he's on loan? How many games you're going to get him for? Does that make it worth it? So there's a lot of factors that are going involved right now. So right now, I think it's a great unknown. Right now they have 5. I think that, the guys that are in college, although Kasper Kotkaniemi went back to Finland and left, I think the problem is that there's just too much uncertainty. I think the Red Wings would rather have these guys play in the AHL. The guys that are in college, they'd rather have them play in college. But who knows? And then again, you have the big club. What are those guys going to do? Because, Dylan Larkin might, hanging out in Waterford and going to the Lakeland Ice Arena. But, that's not the same, playing with his 2 cousins and his brother as it is, actually playing. And so I don't know. I mean, I think about hockey and I think about, because the Red Wings are in such a development mode right now. It's very, very important to get these guys to play. That's why I understand why Steve is putting them on loan. Go over there. It's very important. But I think by the end of the day, much like we see with the Tigers, they want this next core of Red Wings and this next core of Tigers. They want them all to be together, come up together, become a team, get that chemistry. So when they're on the big club, they're ready to go. And, right now it's so unsettling for the Red Wings. They're not able to do that. That's a really long answer.
It was. There's a lot of factors that play into it, though. That's what I was going to say. A lot of things to think about from both the player side and the management side. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But Dan, can you really score 35 goals in a season, do you think? Because we might need you to suit up.
I was a goalie. I could let in 35 goals, but no, I could not score.
All right, good to know. We'll stick to baseball then for you, Dan. Your next question is Adam from Clausen asked, given the rousing ovation that Miggy got last week after his 2000th hit as a Tiger, what milestone should we look for him to break next?
That's a great question, and it's a fun one because it makes you look at the all-time career leaderboards. And as you were talking about earlier, it seems like every time he gets a hit or an extra base hit, that ball's coming out and it's going into a trophy case. So you look at it, he needs 18 RBIs to tie Hans Wagner for 23rd all-time, all right? So 18 RBIs to catch one of the all-time greats, Honus Wagner, at 1732. 19 total bases. Total bases isn't a category that gets talked about a lot, but total bases is a great leaderboard. Look who's on top. Hank Aaron, and he's on top by a lot over Stan Musial. But that top 10 list of guys' total bases, it's a great leaderboard because it tells you which guys hit with power, and they did it for a long time. Total bases, it doesn't get talked about. Great leaderboard, 19 total bases, and he could certainly do that this month to catch Derek Jeter, 23rd, again, all time. And then maybe my favorite, I don't think it's going to happen this month, although he is heating up, but it would take a big finish. but 30 hits for Miguel Cabrera. Remember, he just moved into the top 50, passing Charlie Gehringer with his hits over the weekend. 30 more hits. He moves into the tie at 45 with Babe Ruth. And that's kind of fun.
That is really fun. So wait, so it needs to be 30 hits in general, so that's all-time career?
30 hits. 30 hits, and he'll move it 2873 is how many Babe Ruth finished with. He's at 2843 right now, Miguel.
Well, I don't know why there's anybody that wouldn't be rooting for Miguel Cabrera, but there's another reason for everybody to make sure that they're cheering him on. Let's move on to our fourth and final question of the mailbag, you guys. This one is for both of you, so Art, you're going to answer first. Mel from St. Clair Shores asks, we're halfway through the season and the Tigers are at 500. How excited should we be that we could see the Tigers in the playoff hunt at the end of September?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, watching Tarek Skubal pitch, and he has the number of another great Tiger left-hander, 29, which is Mickey Lolich's number. So, and they're both strikeout pitchers. So, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if he picked it or the Tigers gave him that number. If there's some significance to 29, but that's a significant number in Tiger history, especially if you're a left-handed starting pitcher. I also think that should we be excited? I mean, 28 games left. Why not the Tigers? I have two words. I'm excited and I'm encouraged. If you look at it, the Tigers have Milwaukee coming up for 4 games. Maybe they've solved the Twins, although I think they're going to see an Angry's Twins club this weekend. But they still have 6 games left with Kansas City. The way their schedule plays out, even though they're on the road a lot, and then then it's full of it's essentially after Milwaukee next week, it's the White Sox for a series, then it's Kansas City for 2 series, Cleveland and Minnesota for 1. So I'm looking at this. I think they've gotten some confidence against Cleveland. I think they're feeling good about themselves. I do think that Mize and Skubal and Paredes have been great additions for this team. Will they call up other people? Who knows? I mean, the influx of talent and the enthusiasm that I think the Tigers are feeling right now makes me encouraged. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty jacked. And Daniela, Babe Ruth, or George Herman Ruth, as I like to call him, he was a great pitcher before he became a great slugger. Just imagine what he would have done if he would have been a hitter for the beginning of his career, because he was what was it, the Boston Braves there, Double D? Was that who he? It was the Red Sox. Oh yeah, it was the Red Sox because of the curse, right? The Babe Ruth curse. So he was a pitcher. He was a pitcher, and he was a good one. He was a good one. But obviously, but if you can be mentioned in the same sentence as Babe Ruth or George Herman Ruth, you're doing a lot of good things.
He is. Dan, what do you think? I want you to put this in perspective because we're all excited. But how excited should we
be? Just enjoy it. This is such a strange season. A 60-game season. It's not the same as 162, but enjoy it. They've got a chance to make the postseason. I don't care if there's 8 teams in it. They're going to play meaningful games in September. Going forward, it's going to help the young kids who are on this team, not just Skubal and Mize and Paredes, but the other young kids who are on this team. They're going to get that experience. And I think the Jonathan Scopes of the world are going to be here. Austin Roma, I remember they're on 100-win teams last year. They're going to help them navigate this. Kansas City worries me more than anybody else on the schedule. For some reason, that's just a tough matchup. They split the 4 games earlier. I'd rather see them play the good teams because it was the good teams that brought out the best in them when they played with Cleveland, Cubs, Minnesota, and they're going to play Cleveland, White Sox, team that they have not played well against. Once you get past that doubleheader with St. Louis next week on Thursday, it's all Central all the time, all American League Central all the time. I think they'll hang in there. I thought the 8th, I said all along, the 8th spot is probably going to be a 500 team, but with the way Toronto's playing right now, clearly you're going to have to be above that. This is a really trying stretch right now. 14 games in 13 days with 1 off day coming up on Thursday, a doubleheader on Friday, and a doubleheader next Thursday, a 1-day trip to St. Louis. This is a trying stretch. We keep looking at these stretches and saying this is a key stretch. Well, those games against Minnesota. That was a key series. After the 2 series wins, they answered the bell. They showed what they could do. So, heck, forget about catching Toronto. Why not catch Minnesota and or Cleveland or Chicago? I mean, they're in the central race, not just the race for the 8th playoff spot.
I love it, Dan. We're going to stay excited here on the Word on Woodward. I can promise you that. And we will have you back very soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, as always.
All right, good.
Double D on fire today.
Yeah,
On fire,
he is.
Double D.
By the way, like your haircut, Art, looking good.
You know
See?
what? Everybody's telling me that I got my hair cut. I just combed it back.
You didn't?
It's still really
Oh,
long.
let's see the back then.
Oh, yeah. It's,
Oh,
I
there
don't
it
know.
is. There it is.
I mean, look.
You
All right.
just
If you
groomed
want
a
me
little
to,
better today.
there you go. It's
Just better
still pretty
grooming.
long.
There.
It's still long, man. It is still long. And it's, it is.
Figuring
It's
out how to
definitely
do the do, I
You know,
guess.
our producer, Mark Milligan, said the same thing. Goes, hey, your hair looks good. You got a cut. I see you got a cut. And I'm like, no, I didn't,
Every time you mess up with that, though, you can't get it to go back to the way it was.
Go back to the way the one thing, it's long.
Right.
Trust me.
We're done with that.
Really,
Thank you, Dan.
Really long. It's really long.
A big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag right here on the Word on Woodward. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. You guys, we've still got a lot coming up for you on today's show. We're going to be joined by Jason Beck for Brush Street Beat, play-by-play announcer Ken Daniels for the Red Wings. We're going to talk some playoff hockey with him. And of course, later in the show, Matt Shepard will join Art. And we're going to go to catching up with Carly in just a little bit, who has a very special guest. But first, we've been encouraging you guys to use the hashtag Word on Woodward. So let's see what you've said so far today.
It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm joined by Detroit Tigers' first overall draft pick, Spencer Torkelson. How's it going, Spencer?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very, very good. Awesome. Okay, so let's get right into it. What have you been up to, and what does your day-to-day look like right now in Toledo?
Well, today you got me on an off day, but everything's great in Toledo. We're having a lot of fun. A lot of the guys are in the same apartment complex, and we do the most of our time, and we like to have fun and playing a lot of baseball and just relaxing when we can.
Love it. Okay, so you guys are basically, it's like a dorm. So you guys are all together.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're really making those relationships with these guys?
Yeah, it was really fun. Yesterday we went to, I don't know what it's called, but we went to like a Benihana type hibachi place. Me, Alex Faedo, Matt Manning, Jake Rogers, Nolan Blackwood, Frank Schwindel, and Riley Green. Did I say Riley? I don't know. We all went there, and it was a blast, and had a good time. Ate some good food, and yeah, it was a good time. And today's an off day, so we just get to relax and watch some TV or whatever.
Love it. Mixing work with fun. You got to do that to stay sane. All right, so let's start from day one of your journey as a Detroit Tiger, the MLB draft, of course. So what was it like hearing your name called at first overall?
Oh, it was insane. I keep talking about it with my parents and stuff because my mom says she has the videos saved and recorded like on her phone and on the TV at the house. So she whenever she feels down, she watches the video and just it gives her goosebumps still. And she was telling me that the other day. But yeah, it was an unreal experience. And we were also talking about how we never heard that they called me as a third baseman because as soon as they said my name, we just went crazy. And the first time I found out they drafted me as a third baseman was when I was in an interview 15 minutes after, and they're like, "What do you think about being a third baseman?" I was like, I kind of like improvised because I didn't know they drafted me as a third baseman until then.
Well, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Where did your love for baseball start? Like, where did you begin when you were saying, okay, I actually genuinely love this sport?
I think my love for baseball started before I can even remember loving baseball, because I've heard stories about, you know, family friends and my parents and my grandma and my uncle saying that I used to walk around the house when I was like 2 or 3 years old with a wiffle ball bat and a wiffle ball asking people to pitch to me. And then I would pick out like a fence or like a couch to hit the ball over. So I was just like addicted to hitting the ball far at a young age. But I guess it started like getting real around high school when I committed to Arizona State, and kind of the rest fell into place.
That it did. Okay, let's talk about you playing college ball at Arizona State. During your time there, I hear you broke Barry Bonds' school record for home runs by a freshman. Was that kind of like an aha moment for you? Like, wow, I could take my talents to the big leagues and I could actually do this. Or did you know before that?
That was pretty insane, not gonna lie. I didn't know his record was 11, I believe, his freshman year, and yeah, I hit it within the first like 25 games. So I was kind of like, it was such a surreal moment because it was so like weird, because I always just felt so normal. And then here I am breaking Barry Bonds' home run record at ASU. So I was like, what the hell is going on? Is this really me? And then it kind of just took off, and it was a blast, and I had so much fun. And he shouted me out on his Instagram my freshman year, so that was the highlight. It was awesome.
I mean, it's kind of hard to top that moment, but I guess the MLB draft would.
Yeah,
All right, but
yeah,
let's
probably.
fast forward back to getting drafted. The Tigers summer camp at Comerica Park followed that. How did it feel getting to play in scrimmages and practicing with that old English T on your chest?
It was unreal. You know, you'd look down like in the middle of an at bat or like an inning in the field, and you like just see you're wearing Detroit Tigers stuff, and it was so fun, and just a great experience. And you know, to kind of like see my dreams and like feel them actually come true is a really special moment.
And how did you feel out being out there with those guys, those major league guys? Were you nervous? Did you feel comfortable, or what was the experience like for you?
No doubt nervous to start first couple days at practice. I didn't really know myself. I'm with all the leaguers, and then I kind of took me under their wing, would tell me the do's and don'ts, and made it a lot more comfortable for me to go out there and play my game. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous at the beginning, but I opened up as time went on.
Definitely. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Tigers and how their season's going. They've been playing pretty well. Is that a moment where you're like, wow, this is an organization that has a bright future and I'm going to be a part of that?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. You see the guys. It's really cool witnessing, you know, what they're doing. You know, they're on a win streak right now, but it's really cool to see like guys like Casey and Scooble and Paredes all, you know, they started in Toledo with me, and then called up, and then I'm watching them big leagues. It's a moment to see them succeed, and you know, their dreams, and I'm just trying to get to where they are. You'll be together and win.
Well, we're just all waiting for the day that we hear your name and you get called up. But with that, what are you hoping to bring to the table with the Tigers? What do you think that you can personally add to the team?
I had a couple of different aspects. You know, I think all great teams have solid chemistry, and I like to be a good teammate. You know, a good guy in the clubhouse. Like likes to have fun, but when it turned it on, it's time to win. You know, kind of lock into that and focus on being competitive and doing the best I can to win. And then on the field, in the batter's box, and I'm working hard at third base right now to be a solid defender, and save some runs over there, save some runs in the batter's box.
Love it. Okay, so one of our co-hosts, Art, he came up with the slogan for you called, well, he named it Unleash the Torque. So he thinks that it's the greatest thing ever. So we're take on it.
I like it. Whatever sounds good and whatever makes him happy, I guess. Whatever.
Love it. Well, can't wait the day to unleash the torque. Okay, now I have one more question for you, and it is completely unrelated to baseball, but we have to talk about your relationship with Guy Fieri. How did that come about?
So my mom is Guy Fieri's CFO. I don't know how many years that's going on now, but it's been a while. And Guy's a great dude. He's a great guy and great family, and obviously can cook up some great food. And he's a overall outstanding guy, and always invites my family over for a dinner and just to hang out. And we have great times, and he cooks food, and he never leaves his house hungry.
That's incredible. Well, next time you get the invite, don't be afraid to invite me as well.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Spencer, thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly. Great to hear from Spencer Torkelson. And we're going to get right into Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Art and Carly, I have to talk to you guys about that Unleash the Torque. Carly, thank you for making Spencer aware of that. And Art, I think you need to amp him up about that a little bit more next time you talk about him, because I don't think he realized how cool it is. Or maybe I just think it's way too cool. I don't know, but he's got to get more excited about that and start owning that. It needs to be his motto.
Well, exactly. I think if he would have saw that picture, first of all, personal happiness is important to you, and that makes me feel good. Whatever makes me happy, and it made me feel happy. I feel great about it. I mean, Unleash the Torque. He's a modest kid, and I think that if you looked at it, look at that. See, there I am. I've got on my amazing blue underwear. I love this one too. I really want a copy of that. I would actually hang that up in my home. But without that theme, I think Spencer Torkelson, the thing that I really like and what I've heard is that he seems to be making a pretty good transition at third base. Now, granted, it's not major league right now. He's playing against his buddies and all that down in Toledo. But so Unleash the Torque. I think I love it. I love it. I love both graphics that we showed. And, Spencer, I'm a little bit partial to Arthur, as you guys know, the king of the hill, Arthur Mize, but Torque is right up there with him. I mean, Torque is right there. So I really enjoyed it. I thank you, Spencer. I'm he said, I like it though. His initial response, that was the key. When you asked him, he didn't even hesitate. He said, I like it because, but then again, he has to take that step back. But then he said, well, hey, I got to make art. Whatever makes Art happy makes Spencer happy. So we're both happy. I'm sure it was too. So we're both very, very happy.
I have to say, though, in that graphic we have, Unleash the Torque, not the one of Art, but the other one, he kind of looks like Dylan Larkin. Can we see that again? That graphic of Unleash the Torque? I want to see. I think he looks
creator of the graphic. Ryan is always excited to put it up.
Oh, it does. He looks like Dylan Larkin.
Well, I think, we've got a couple of lookalikes going here because that angle that Al Avila is at when he speaks, when we run his sound bites, he looks like Scotty Bowman to me. I don't know if it's the angle looking up, or something. So, yeah, but I agree with you. The Torque does look like Dylan, and I think it's because they have the same features from the eyebrows down. I don't know their I think their hairline's a little bit different, but yeah, I can definitely see it. I can definitely see it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be like Al Kaline and Gordie Howe were good friends and became like business partners at one time. Maybe the Torque and Dylan will do the same thing. You never know.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We're, of course, excited to see what Spencer Torkelson's future looks like here in Detroit. You guys, we're going to get to talking about a more immediate future. The Tigers play tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers, and they're coming to town in a similar spot as the Tigers, hovering right around 500, and they're 4 games back in the division. The big difference is that while the Tigers are excited and they're riding some young talent this season, the Brewers are facing crossroads after making the playoffs the past 2 seasons. But right now, they're batting an MLB worst 213 on the season. So given their inconsistency on offense, they were looking to be sellers at this trade deadline, but the only deal they were able to pull off was with Philadelphia for reliever David Phelps as the Tigers face the Brew Crew. Art, I want you to kick things off for us. Excuse me. What do you think heading into this series against Milwaukee?
Well, I think the big key is game 1. Is because, as you know, it's Double D so aptly put it and pointed out, 14 of the next, they're playing 14 games in the next 13 days. I know when I went through the schedule, I forgot, I keep forgetting about the doubleheader for St. Louis. That's because I'm a bit of a pessimist. Will those games ever be played? Who knows? Who knows? It's the Cardinals. Who knows? Although they have been playing lately, but I do think it's pitching. Pitching is vitally important, and tonight, Michael Fulmer goes, and if Michael Fulmer can give them 3 good, solid innings, and then you follow up by Daniel Norris, who, if he can put 3 or 4 innings together, he hasn't given up a home run yet this year. He's got career best in ERA in his WHIP. So if Daniel Norris and Michael Fulmer get the job done tonight, like they have been, I think Fulmer's been a little bit down on himself, but like I told Jack Morris last week, I'm kind of encouraged by Michael Fulmer. I mean, he's going to go out there. He knows how to pitch. He's a former Rookie of the Year. And then Daniel Norris, who I know I keep saying it over and over, but when that trade was made for David Price, when they brought over Matt Boyd and Daniel Norris was the star of that deal. I mean, he was the guy that the expectations were really high. Nothing against Matthew Boyd, but Norris was supposed to be the get. Well, Daniel Norris is starting to slowly but surely maybe find his way right now. And if Daniel Norris can do that, if he can go 3 or 4 innings, that will help Ron Gardenhire be able to preserve his bullpen. And if he's able to preserve the bullpen, now we're talking 7 innings, and then you go into maybe a Cisnero, maybe a Buck Farmer, maybe a Soto, maybe you put Jimenez in there, because they're going to have to save arms. And the key to saving arms is going to be starters, which have been better the last week or so, as we have seen, is starters going longer in the ball games. If starters go longer in the ball games, especially in their only 7-inning doubleheaders, which works out to the Tigers' advantage, but if starters can go longer, that really helps out the bullpen, which has been sensational. But if you keep using them in and out 4 or 5 innings a game, that's going to start taxing these guys. They're only human beings. That could start to affect the effectiveness of the bullpen. So the key is for the Tigers in this series and from here on out is starting pitching. They need Fulmer to go 3 strong innings. Then they need Daniel Norris to come in and do at least 3, if not 4 strong innings. That sets up the bullpen nicely. I think that is a huge key. Without question.
So, Art, we have Michael Fulmer and Daniel Norris in the piggyback start for the Tigers. The Brewers have Josh Lindblom, and he has a bit of a different approach to pitching. So, what can we expect from him?
Well, when I read about him, the old movie, the old classic movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly comes to mind. The good about Josh Lindblom is that he has 36 strikeouts in 26 innings. That's pretty impressive. The bad is his fastball only goes 90 miles an hour. It's not overpowering, meaning you can time it up and you can probably hit it. But he throws 6 different pitches. So by throwing 6 different pitches, he keeps you off balance. What are you going to look for? You can't, I guess what I'm saying is you can't sit on the fastball because he has 5 other pitches in his arsenal that he can throw to you. So, you're going to have to, and that's pretty impressive. He can strike people out. So he has out pitches and, but his fastball's slow. If you can hit the fastball, I think every major league hitter can pretty much hit a fastball. And then the ugly is his ERA is 6.31, and his opponent's on base percentage is 351. So what does that mean? Well, the key is, and how many times have you heard me say this, Danielle and Carly? It's no secret the Tigers are going to have to extend their bats. They're going to have to their at bats, I should say. They're going to have to foul pitches off, and they're going to have to work the count. They're going to have to take some pitches. He averages in one inning, to get out of an inning, his average is 18 pitches. If the Tigers are consistently 18, 18, and 18, before you know it, they're going to, he's out of the game. They're going to get into that Milwaukee bullpen, which has been a little bit questionable. So I think that with, he can strike people out, but he has a bad fastball. He doesn't overpower, but then he has 6 pitches. And then, his ERA is really, really high, and his on-base percentage is not good at 351. So if the Tigers can just be patient at the plate, I think they can get to Josh Lindblom, and I think that, good things can happen.
So Carly Art says they need to be patient. The Tigers hitters need to be patient. The offense has been really good so far, so hoping they can extend that tonight.
Yeah, they've been hot. They rank 4th in batting average in the American League. Pretty impressive for the Tigers. 2 of the guys, though, that I have gotten my eye on are Jonathan Schoop and Miguel Cabrera. I mean, how can we talk about batting without talking about Miggy? But let's start with Schoop, who has a hot bat, batting .360 with 7 RBI and 2 homers. And let me just say, I want this to go on record. I swear, every time I mention him and Bet You Didn't Know here on The Word on Woodward, he goes and hits a home run right after. So look out for another one tonight in this game. And as for Miguel Cabrera, who hit a milestone of 2,000 hits as a Detroit Tiger, as we all know, who is batting .480 in the last 7 games. That's impressive. He's also knocked in 9 runs, then to take over the team lead 20 RBI in that span. So I have my eye on these 2 power hitters tonight in this series, not just tonight, but in the series against the Brewers. So I'm hoping that they can keep this hot streak alive and go above 500, as we were mentioning before.
So Art, now we know more about what we can expect out of Milwaukee tonight and for the rest of the series. Carly thinks it's Jonathan Schoop and Miguel Cabrera. For you, who is the X factor tonight?
Well, there's 2 X factors. Victor Reyes and the Candyman, Jeimer Candelario. Reyes has hit safely in 10 of his last 11 games, and he is batting .302. Victor Reyes has been a fine. He's really starting to hit his stride, and I think a lot of why Cameron Maybin was able to be moved was because of the way Victor Reyes has played. I mean, he's made some outstanding catches in the outfield, and he can flat out hit. So, 10 of 11, as I said, .302. And the Candyman, he is on fire. He is a red-hot Candyman, like those red hots you get, as a kid, and you put them in your mouth. You think, oh, wow, you put like 6 in, and then before you know, you got to spit them out because they're so hot. That's how hot the Candyman has been. He is currently in a 5-game hitting streak where he is 8 of 17 in that 5-game hitting streak. His average is .571. He has 2 home runs and 4 runs during that streak. So if I look at it, my X factors tonight, Reyes is going to keep playing great defense and also going to be hitting. And the Candyman is he's starting to bloom. All season long, I kept saying, it's time running out on Jeimer Candelario. He always looked like the Candyman's always looked like a great player to me. I couldn't understand why he wasn't better. I could see it in him. Well, he's starting to live up to that expectation. I'm really happy for him. And don't forget, he's playing first base. He wasn't supposed to play first base, and he's done a really good job, too. So he's bringing the leather, and he's also bringing the stick. The Candyman and Reyes, my 2 X factors. Love you guys.
Candyman has to be one of my favorite nicknames, actually. Do you know the old song, the Candyman song? I cannot think of it right now, and I've been trying to think of it because I was going to sing it for you guys.
By Sandy Davis Jr., who can make the sun rise, sprinkle it with you.
Because he
sprinkle it with Yeah, you
I
know,
thought we were going
who
the other
can
direction.
the Candyman can.
We can't sing that song on this show. This is a family
No,
Well,
show.
you know what? You know what? Sammy Davis. You know, Sammy Davis Jr., one of the original Rat Pack guys, he did the Candyman, but he also wrote, or I don't know if he wrote it, but he sang a song about Detroit. Like, how everyone had like Chicago, it's my kind of town, and New York, New York. Well, I don't know if they commissioned him, but Detroit wanted a song about Detroit. And I think the name of it is Hello, Detroit. It never quite took off like the Chicago or New York song, but they had one of the best entertainers of all time, Sammy Davis Jr. sing it. So, but I think it was a little slow if I remember it. I haven't heard it in a long time, but it's like, hello, Detroit. It's like, and then of course there's another Detroit City, which is a country song about a guy who's longing to get out of Detroit. He came up here to work in the auto plants, and I want to go home because, he's not from here. So we'll forget that song. But Hello, Detroit by Sammy Davis Jr. We should get that. We should start playing that.
Or
with our new open.
Detroit by the Red Hot Chili Peppers is another jam.
Yeah.
Well, Chad Smith, Chad Smith's from here, and Anthony Kiedis, he was born in Grand Rapids. Yeah, he's from Grand Rapids, and then there's some songs about Detroit. I mean, certainly,
Yeah.
and then who can forget, the legendary Kiss band, of course, Detroit Rock City, also a very underrated film.
Great film. I have to chime in there. Great film. And I'm going to wrap this up because I bet you guys didn't know any of that. So that will do it for Bet You Didn't Know today. And Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. Speaking of social media, Carly, I know that you have been all over social media following the Red Wings, the Tigers, but I think we've got some really good Tiger stuff right now, right?
We do. First up, I want to show you guys a tweet from John Morosi that made me laugh a bit. LOL, if you will, for talking about social media. So let's take a look at that post. He wrote, Mom, so his mom is texting me about baseball because the Tigers are contending into September for the first time since 2016. Fun fact, and I also love the fact that his mom is so into it that she's texting him. Speaking of the Tigers, let's move on to a Tigers player who tweeted about an off day that they had and how boring it was. CJ Crone, he tweeted on his Twitter saying, "Is this how fans feel when there's no Tigers game? Off days are absolutely crucial for the players, but this has been a boring day." CJ Crone, we agree. It is boring when the Tigers aren't playing. But that's all I have for now for this little segment of Let's Socialize. Make sure you guys are sending in your questions for us to answer later on in the show. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. And yes, we all agree with CJ. It is really tough when the Tigers have off days. Very boring. And everybody make sure you're using the hashtag #WordOnWoodward. Carly will find your questions, comments, and thoughts for our bigger Let's Socialize segment later in the show. We've still got a lot coming up for you guys. Jason Beck is going to join us shortly for Brush Street Beat. And Art will be joined by Matt Shepard for today's headliner. But right now, hockey fans, let's talk about some NHL playoffs. It's time for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is the Red Wings play-by-play announcer, Ken Daniels. Ken, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today.
Daniela, my pleasure. Always great to be with you and Art.
Great to have
you. Thank you, Ken.
I can't believe we're here on September 1st, normally gearing up for Prospects Tournament and training camp in Traverse City, but we're going to talk about some playoff hockey, and it's been some really good playoff hockey. The first team I want to talk about is the first team that's advanced to the conference finals, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They beat the Boston Bruins last night without Steven Stamkos and without Nikita Kucherov for most of that Game 5. Ken, what did you think? What do you think the next series is going to look like for Tampa Bay?
Yeah, well, Kucherov took a high stick from Zdeno Chara. So when he didn't come back, as Art knows, Boston had been my pick. I wasn't counting on Tuukka Rask having to leave the bubble, first off, and I wasn't sure Hedman was going to go for Tampa Bay. But to do what they did without Steven Stamkos, and then I think last win really against Boston. Despite the goaltending of the Bruins, Halak was okay, but I thought it was almost a must-win. You had to get through that game because if Kucherov's out for any longer, to keep going in this with Boston, you give the Bruins that life. I think it was really important that Tampa Bay ended it. But you know what? They've had their playoff losses. I think what they did at the trade deadline to beef up. They're a much grittier team than they used to be. I think the likes of Blake Coleman have been a great addition, and even on the back end, what they did, and you got great goaltending in Vasilevsky. So I think as good as the New York Islanders have been, I think still Tampa Bay is the best in the East.
Ken, when you look at Boston, seems to be a team that maybe some of their young guys the last couple of years didn't step up this playoff run. I am kind of curious. Do you think that would impact Torrey Krug's decision whether to stay there or not? Chara's in the last year of his deal. He seemed, and you shouldn't ask him right after a game where he's eliminated, but he seems, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, are they now a team in flux? Because the way the Bruins were talking was that, hey, our window's running out. Do you think that will impact Krug?
Maybe. Why? You think in Detroit, Art? Is that why?
Look, I think he's going to. I think he's going to stay in Boston. But I live in Livonia, and Krug is from Livonia, and everybody is constantly asking me about Torrey coming home. I truly don't see it, but yet maybe the way the Bruins went out, perhaps there might be a ray of light that he would leave Boston.
Well, first of all, when you look at the Bruins and how they're lined up and what do they do in goal too? Does Tuukka Rask, I know he left for reasons and family, and I get all that. But how does it sit? What does Boston do there? David Krejci, I think, is their highest paid player. Is he not? I mean, in terms of the cap, they've done a very good job of managing that. Torrey Krug at age, he's a wonderful defenseman. Is he going to go to a rebuilding team or does he want to win? And do you want to give Torrey Krug 7 years or is Torrey Krug better at 4 years? And then what happens with the salary cap now? Yes, it's going to be pretty flat for the next couple of years in this economic crisis and pandemic that we're in within the National Hockey League. I think it could go longer. It could go 3 to 5 years. So there's going to be so much movement. I think this summer, Art, with teams who can't afford to take on some salary and those who are up against it. And let's remember one more thing. Even though the cap is flat with the economic realities of what is happening here, teams are going to have their own salary caps. Teams that spent a little bit more before may not be spending as much now. So it's going to have a big impact all the way down the line to get back to your Torrey Krug decision. I still think Boston's a pretty darn good team. Sure, they've got some holes. Every team does. But there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of questions around the league for so many teams. But I think there's going to be a lot of movement.
Ken, not to say that I wasn't excited before to have Steve Yzerman back in Detroit. I think we all were. But watching this Tampa Bay team that he essentially built, I don't know about you, but it definitely made me a little bit more excited for what the future holds here in Detroit.
Oh, for sure. He did a marvelous job, and then it was added on to from players that were added. I think Tampa was a very good team, and sometimes you have to just get over those hurdles. You have to lose first, as they always say, and they've had, sure, some disappointments. I think before the Boston series, people were wondering, was John Cooper still okay? Was he all right if they lost to Boston? You maybe find that shocking, a new deal. But you never know. But I think Tampa Bay has some grit maybe now and a little deeper than they didn't have before. Even a guy like Maroon, and you saw what he did in St. Louis. So as much as the skill was great, I think they added some really nice pieces too. But what Steve did and the scouting there and Al Murray and through the years and Pat Verbeek and now Steve and Pat here, yeah, they did a marvelous job building a lot of talent. Sometimes, as Steve knows, because he saw it here, you just got to lose first. And I think now this could be their time. Even though Art's pick in the West, Vegas, looks very good. I'm not finished yet with Colorado, Art, although their goaltending, I didn't expect that to happen. Francouz couldn't stop a puck, and then Grubauer got hurt. But there's going to be so many teams looking for goalies, but Vegas looks terrific, don't they?
I know we only have you for a limited time here because you're the busiest man in all of show business. But
yeah, right.
I'm really, really surprised that the Islanders are up on the Flyers 3-1 because Philadelphia was my sleeper pick. But, I have to tip my cap to Barry Trotz. I mean, this guy is one of the best coaches in the league, certainly. But, I mean, he really knows how to get guys to perform at this time of year, playoff time.
That he does, and we saw that with Washington, and his assistant Lane Lambert, I think, in this offseason is going to get some calls. I think he certainly deserves to be a head coach, and his defensive style and how Barry Trotz can play can be stifling. And isn't it just by coincidence that Lou Lamoriello's there too? And what he did with the New Jersey Devils, remember those days? And the trapping at center ice, you couldn't go anywhere. I know, but he's got them playing some great hockey. But still, it comes down to I think solid goaltending too. And as good as Carter Hart was, I think overall sticking to a system and being patient and waiting for breaks. That's Barry Trotz. And even though he had more high-end talent with the Washington Capitals that he didn't have necessarily with Nashville, but he got them to plug along in the system that he needed. Then he adapted and did what he needed to do in Washington. And now he's doing it with the New York Islanders too. Just a fantastic coach, great job, great man. Players love playing for him. So yeah, the Islanders are for real, but I still don't think they can get by Tampa Bay.
That would be a really interesting series, Tampa Bay and the Islanders. On the other side of things, Ken, in the Western Conference, you mentioned the Colorado Avalanche. They're my pick to win it all too. And after last night's game, my hope has been reinsured. I'm ready. I'm still on that train. But can they do it? They were down 3-1. Can they come back and win this series?
I don't see why not. A lot of teams picked Dallas at the start of the year, and with good reason. They had some nice additions, and just like what Tampa Bay did, they got a little bit grittier. They got a little bit deeper. But Colorado, I love watching McKinnon, and what a first period that was last night. And, Dallas and Rick Bowness, we love Rick Bowness. He thought, Ben Bishop showed really well in practice. We think he's ready. And obviously he hadn't played since August the 13th, I believe, and couldn't stop anything. So Colorado has life. And that's the thing in these series. And it's also strange. And in the bubble, you give a team life. I mean, who knows? So I don't, when Grubauer went down and Francouz couldn't stop a puck, and now Michael Hutchinson's going to be your answer. It's 2020, Daniela. Anything could happen. It could very well be. I mean, there's going to be so many teams switching goaltenders this year. And I think now, having seen what they've seen, I think Colorado's going to have to upgrade. And there's going to be a lot of good goaltenders available, whether free agency or teams that have to make a move like Matt Murray in Pittsburgh or Jari in Pittsburgh. And we know Rutherford will do anything. So Colorado in goal, if this wasn't your answer. And I think Carolina, who Art liked in the East, even though I like Boston Art at that time, you'd have to think Carolina's got to upgrade the goaltending. In all deference to Peter Mrazek, let's be honest here. So I think Carolina's got to upgrade goaltending too. So Colorado, Carolina, so many teams, Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh. I mean, it's going to be so many changes. But I think Colorado, I'm still with you, Daniela. We picked them in the beginning. We got to keep going. I'm not so sure they got what it takes to get past Vegas, as good as Vegas has been. But I'll stick with Colorado. Yeah, they can get another one, force it to a 7. I think so.
Well, all right. Well, okay. I'll humor you guys. Yeah, Colorado has a chance, very minute chance of even beating Dallas here. But that's true. Now, a team that I really do like, in all honesty, and it's not because Tyler Mont and Quinn Hughes are playing very, very well. A couple of University of Michigan guys for the Vancouver Canucks. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Vancouver. Lovely city and all that. But of course, the juggernaut, the best team in the league by far is the Vegas Golden Knights. I can't wait to see them in Tampa go for the Stanley Cup final. But your opinion, I mean, can Vancouver, I mean, they're young, the old expression, young and dumb and all that kind of stuff. They don't really know what they're doing right now. They're just learning. Can they possibly come back and beat Vegas, or is it essentially done?
Essentially done.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for Vancouver. I'd love to see that story. But again, you think about this and we can say, Vegas has been there. They haven't done it, but they've been there. Think about that. They haven't been around long enough to have been there, but they've been there. And yet Vancouver, Jacob Markstrom's a great goaltender. And there's another team, Art, is gonna, I think Markstrom wants to stay in Vancouver, but then you've got the expansion draft coming a year from now, and Thatcher Demko, and what do you do there? I saw Quinn Hughes a few games back. Boy, that was a rare off night for him. I've seen him, but when you keep pounding him, you get in on him. That's what they have to do. Bo Horvat's been great. Vancouver's been a really nice surprise, but I don't think they've got that shock value in them to take down Vegas. No, I don't.
So, Ken, does that mean now that Boston was eliminated, are you on the Vegas train?
Am I on the Vegas train? I really should be, but I don't want to get in any compartment on a train that Art's in. Let's see. Art.
I don't know if you could take a train to Vegas when the tracks sink in the desert. I'm on the Vegas airplane.
Okay.
On the junket airplane, yes.
You know what? It's hard to bet against them, and I'm not even going to use the analogy of betting in Vegas. But I love the team that Steve built, and I love what's been added to what Steve did. So all that combined, and I'm pulling for John Cooper. I really like him lots. So no, I'm still gonna go with Tampa Bay. I think it's their time. They paid the dues over the years. There's been a lot of building there. Steve went there in 2010. So it's 10 years. Just shows you how tough it is to win a Stanley Cup, right? And if they can do it without Steven Stamkos and Hedman appears to be healthy enough. If Kucherov's okay, there's the caveat, right, Danielle? That's the caveat. We don't know injuries in the bubble, and you don't hear any of this. Like, as I say, when I was picking Boston, I didn't think Rask was going to go. But family over that, I certainly understand it. So how do you know? But it's a strange year, but I'm going to stick with Tampa.
All of that said, I am still sticking with Colorado to win it all. But I have to agree with you guys. Seeing a Tampa Bay and Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup final would be an extremely good series. But Ken, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Always a big thank you to Ken for joining us. And Ken and everyone that he's close with are working very hard to put together the Jamie Daniels Foundation Celebrity Roast. Last year, it was Mickey Redmond. And of course, this year will be virtual, but it features the one and only Scotty Bowman. The roast will air for the first time on Fox Sports Detroit on Wednesday, October 14th at 8 p.m. It will also be streaming online. And I can't give you guys too much information, and I don't want to give too much away, but he has some great guests or roasters, if you will, to say their piece about Scotty. So you definitely won't want to miss that. Again, that is Wednesday, October 14th, and you can get more information at jamiedanielsfoundation.org. You guys, we've still got a lot coming up. Matt Shepard is going to join Art later for the headliner, but right now we're going to get into Brush Street Beat presented by our friends at McLaren, and today's guest is MLB.com Tigers writer Jason Beck. Jason, as always, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Danielle. Great seeing you again.
Before we get into talking about the upcoming series with Milwaukee, I want to ask you about the trade that the Tigers were a part of yesterday, very late up into the trade deadline. It was right before 4:00 that they did it, but Cameron Maybin to the Chicago Cubs for Zach Short, a prospect of the Cubs. He is a shortstop. What, for fans really that don't know who Zach Short is, what did the Tigers get in him? Is he someone we can expect to see in the lineup, or will he be in Toledo?
He is reporting to Toledo as we speak. I think he was supposed to fly in to Detroit today, and then he has to go through testing and COVID protocol to be cleared to join the alternate side in Toledo. But he's a shortstop / infield prospect. He ranked 21st on MLB Pipeline's Cubs prospect rankings. He was higher up before last season. He had an injury, plagued season. He had a hand injury that cost him a good chunk of the season. Didn't quite come back the way he hoped offensively. Defensively, he gets rave reviews. I know Al Avila said yesterday that there's some who believe he could play in the big leagues right now from a defensive standpoint. The question is going to be, can he hit enough to be a regular, or is he going to be more of a utility infield type of player? So it's, for trading a veteran on a one-year deal who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year in a shortened season where the Cubs are going to get, basically like 4 weeks of Cameron Maybin in regular season and whatever they play in the postseason. That's kind of a return you were kind of expecting, in this type of situation.
Another acquisition yesterday they got off the waiver wire was Eric Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez's son, who is very familiar with Comerica Park. He roamed the whole ballpark as a kid. I'm kind of curious. I made the analogy earlier today, Jason, that this might be like a Carson Fulmer kind of acquisition. Somebody that needs to, let's see what we have here, work on his mechanics, and who knows, maybe we have a find. Is that a proper assumption on my part? And what do you think about that acquisition?
That comparison came to my mind too shortly after they made it. Art, it's he was highly regarded. Derek was not a first round pick, unlike Fulmer, but he had a tremendous 2018 rookie season in the Giants rotation. He looked like an up and coming type pitcher. He's had some struggles since then, partly for command, partly for getting hit. He ended up making, I think, 1, maybe 2 appearances for the Giants this year, and then they designated for assignment last week. This is a chance to kind of see what you have here. They had some roster flexibility with some of the moves they've made recently. They have a high waiver wire spot still, so they thought, let's bring him in, get a look, and take a shot. This came right after Al Vila said that they were going to add some guys to the alternate site, partly for depth, but partly to take a look at some young guys. Derek is, I believe, 28, so he's not as young as Carson Fulmer is, but he does not have a lot of innings under his belt. He still has a lot of good life left on the arm. From the small sample size, the velo was up a tick in the brief appearance he made with the Giants this year. So, bring him in and take a look. He's got the big league pedigree. He knows his way around, and he certainly knows that the Tigers organization fairly well and how it operates and what the expectations are from his time here, being around his dad.
Jason, let's switch our focus and talk about this upcoming series with the Milwaukee Brewers. The Tigers are coming off of a sweep of the Minnesota Twins, and we know that we have Josh Lindblom on the mound for the Brewers tonight. And we know that he has some upside to his game, but also some downside. What does this Tigers lineup have to do to take advantage of that downside, per se?
Well, they're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to wait him out. First of all, they're going to have to see an idea, how many pitches does he command? He throws a lot of pitches. The question is, can he command it? His fastball, it's not a high velo type of pitch, but it's got a good spin rate, and he's got a surprising amount of swing and miss on it. I think it's like a 35% swing and miss rate, which is pretty good for fastball, for a four-seam fastball especially. But when guys hit it, they tend to hit it pretty hard. So, you look for that fastball in the zone. You try to shrug off the other stuff if you can, and you try to focus on that one pitch. Now, if he's locating enough of his other pitches to make you kind of be worried of that, it's going to be a long night. But, this is a lineup that had shown a decent ability to work some pitchers in recent days. There hadn't been as much of the swing and miss as we'd seen over the previous road trips. So can they continue that here against some non-division foes that are not quite as familiar with it as they were with the with the Twins over the weekend?
I know we are talking about maybe the bullpen or closer by committee at this point, but before we get there, I'm looking at the way things shake out now with the trade of Cameron Maybin. Reyes is definitely going to be your right fielder, Jacoby Jones in center field, and then it looks like it's left field by committee with Travis Demeritte being called up. How do you see that shaking out? If Christian Stewart can hit for power, is he, I guess, ultimately, isn't that the guy the Tigers would like to see there, maybe day in and day out, if he could hit for power?
I think it's safe to say the Tigers would very much like Christian Stewart to emerge here as their main left field option. He's got to hit. They're showing a lot of patience, waiting through this slump, waiting to see if he can come out. He's shown some promising signs here and there. He's got to sustain it, obviously. That's the big key. But, he's a big part of the future. he's a guy that they're hoping can be part of that future outfield here and can be part of the Tigers lineup and a key part of the Tigers lineup for years to come. So they're going to give him every opportunity, especially being a left-handed bat in a predominantly right-handed hitting lineup, to show what he can do. But they certainly have options here. Demerit's coming up and adds a bat. They like what they've seen from Jorge Bonifacio. He's given them kind of a jolt of energy, both with the bat and with the base running. He's done decently well in the field. He's been a late inning club for Stewart here a couple days over the weekend. So it's not automatic that they're going to wade through Stewart here through the season. He's got to show some signs here. But I think very much like to see him show some signs, as Al Avila said on his conference call with us yesterday.
Jason, before we let you go, one last question. I always ask Art in another segment of ours, what is his X factor for the game tonight? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Heading into this series with Milwaukee, not only tonight, but throughout the whole series, who is the X factor for the Tigers?
You know what? I'm going to go with Gregory Soto just because it's an interesting matchup here between two really good lefty relievers. One, Josh Hader is very well known, obviously. The other one is just now coming into his game in Soto. And it was interesting to me, according to StatCast, as of yesterday, and I believe it still stands, Soto has the highest average fastball velocity of any left-handed pitcher in baseball this year in the major leagues, which is amazing to me. And it's not particularly close. He was at 97.4 miles per hour. I think the next closest is like 96.9. So, that says a lot. We've seen Hader be able to make things work with a lower fastball right now. He's throwing more sliders. He's got more of a pitch mix in there. Whereas Soto, you're seeing a lot more of the fastball, but the slider is being worked to get guys off of that fastball timing to prevent them from completely timing that pitch. So, this is a lineup that hasn't seen Soto before, but they've seen hard-throwing lefties. So it's, the way they've been working their bullpen, as Art alluded, they've been saving Soto for the biggest part of the lineup, the most crucial, which I would assume would, give you a matchup between Soto and Christian Yelich at some point in this series. So, that's going to be fascinating for me. And if these games stay close, as I think they should, these could be crucial parts of the game here and could make the difference between whether the Tigers can get 2 games or 1 game, or if they're at risk of taking 2 losses here. It'll be interesting to see.
The Tigers and Brewers kick off this series tonight. First pitch is 7:40. You can catch that on Fox Sports Detroit or listen to it on 97.1 The Ticket. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We always appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you soon. A big thank you to McLaren Healthcare as well for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on the Word on Woodward. You guys, before we pivot into today's headliner, I have to let you know that the Detroit Tigers and Miller Lite are teaming up to give our fans a chance to win autographed Detroit Tigers merchandise and some great Miller Lite gear. You can enter online to win one of 72 Miller Lite home run kits from now until October 12th. Now, you guys, with all that being said, I'm going to toss it over to Art for today's headliner.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Let's bring in the play-by-play voice of Detroit Tiger Baseball on Fox Sports Detroit, Matt Shepard. Matt, thanks for joining us again on the headliner. Really appreciate your time.
Always love it, Art. Good to talk to you, buddy.
Well, let's, first of all, the trade deadline, Al Avila before it said, hey, we're not buyers, we're not sellers. If something comes our way, and lo and behold, for like the 3rd time or 4th time in his career, Cameron Maybin is involved in a transaction with the Detroit Tigers, this time being shipped to the Cubs for Zach Short. Were you surprised the Tigers made a move? Were you surprised it was Maybin?
Not necessarily. I didn't think they'd make a big move. I didn't think they would trade any of their pitching because you're only one starter injury away from having to dip into those resources of Tyler Alexander or Daniel Norris, who is kind of linked to Tampa a little bit. Cameron Maybin, look, I mean, Detroit's got some outfielders, right? I mean, Victor Reyes should be playing every day, and he basically is, but they're moving him around a little bit. They've got Travis Demerit, who they've called up and playing right field a little bit. You've got another one in Derek Hill who's knocking on that proverbial door. So it doesn't surprise me that much. On a one-year deal, wasn't going to be back with this team next year anyway. They'll miss some of the things that he brings to the clubhouse for sure, and his professionalism. But overall, I think they've kept the bones of this team intact, and that's a good thing.
It seems that Zach Short, he was the 21st prospect in the Cubs system. I've read various reports saying in the Tiger system he's number 27. Yet he seems like a good depth player. Great infielder, known as a shortstop, but versatile, has a little bit of pop in his bat. But I think Avila was pretty honest about it, said this is pretty much a depth guy. You know, we've replenished the stock a little bit more with position player.
Yeah, I mean, he's also a guy who gets on base, so he draws some walks. So that's important. Basically, what they've done is they've taken Zach Short and they've made him that versatile player that maybe like a Dawel Lugo could not be, right? So he could play second, he could play short, he could play third. You mentioned going from 21 in the Cubs to 27 in Detroit. That tells you the depth that Detroit has within their farm system and tells you how good of a job they've done in trying to, replenish what was lost in the past. So I don't anticipate him being a major factor for the Tigers anytime soon. You've got guys who are in front of him, guys like Willie Castro, for example. We've seen what Isaac Paredes has been doing. I like Cody Clemens. I think the organization does too, and I think eventually you're going to see him make his mark on this Tigers team. So Zach Short's got it's a nice little log jam that Detroit has going on with some of their position players. Sergio Alcantara is another one of those guys. So hopefully Detroit will be able to use some of the guys that they have within the system before Zach Short got there. And if he's one of those super utility guys that is very important to just about any successful team, if he's one of those guys, then they've got themselves a pretty good player.
Well, yeah, we wish Cameron Maybin well until the next time we see him in Detroit, whatever that may be, because there's always something. Cameron Maybin and Detroit are connected at the hip here. But best of luck to Cameron Maybin with the Cubs. Let's go. The Tigers, 16-16. My battle cry was, why not the Tigers when this season began? And then there was a 9-game winning streak, so I sort of calmed myself down. But again, why not the Tigers? And Shep, you've got a captive audience. It sounds like.
Yeah, I know. My dog just feels the need to just bump open the door anytime she feels like it's important to her. I think that the beauty of what this team has done, Art, and they've won 5 straight going into this series against Milwaukee. The beauty is they found different ways to win. So they have a season high 18 hits against the Cubs, and they beat them early on. They come out and they find different ways in taking their bullpen, which, by the way, is in the top 5 in the majors in walks and hits per innings pitched, but has been used an awful lot, and rely on them a little bit. And while the offense may not have been clicking most recently against Minnesota, what do? They get clutch hits. Jamer Candelario, Jonathan Scope. They're finding different ways to win, and I think that should be really encouraging. I personally feel this staff and this entire team has been re-energized with the call-ups of Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize. And I know they're not going deep into games necessarily. Mize is still looking for his first win, but you can tell he's a bulldog. You can tell he's a tough son of a gun. He's not going to back up. He's not going to let batters own that plate. He's going to try to avoid them allowing them to use their arms. I know he hit 3 batters the other day, but I personally think instead of looking at just the 3 hit batters, what did those hitters do later in the game? They were not extending their arms. They were a little bit back in the box. They were, I don't want to say fearful, but they were cautious in their approach. I think Casey Mize kind of helped set that tone.
Well, it's really interesting. I cannot believe, you can tell we've been friends a long time, because I was just about to say, I think what re-energized this club was the call-up of Mize, Skubal, and don't forget Isaac Paredes. Right. I mean, all 3 of them kind of gave a shot in the arm to this club, and I couldn't agree with you more. The thing I like about Casey Mize, and I tell people this, I think he has the talent of a Verlander and a Morris, but he has the edge of a Jeff Weaver, who, was a little bit psycho at times. And, Casey, when we had him on the headliner about 6-7 weeks ago, he said he's not afraid to throw inside, or that he considers the plate his. I love that about him. But then you throw in Skubal, who we've heard things about. That kid from it's like they say about college football teams, from week 1 to week 2, they make the most improvement. He looked like a different pitcher in his second start. He really, really did. Pitching's
you
good.
could see, and you could see, Art, you could see how he knew when the end was coming for him, and he amped it up a little bit more, right? He got to 97, 98 in his last inning because he said, this is my last inning. I'm going to go all out here. It may have to change a little bit moving forward, but I hope Tigers fans are noticing the same thing that you and I are, that these guys are truly legit, that they are not afraid to pitch inside, and that they're going to work hard at getting better in their next outing. It's really energized, I hope, a fan base with those two guys, and I'm glad you brought up Paredes because I neglected to bring him up, and I should have. Here's a guy who's going to get more at-bats as the season continues. We're going to see him give you good at-bats. Struggled a little bit in Minnesota last time out against Kenta Maeda, but overall, this is a guy I think who might be positioned at third base for right now until Spencer Torkelson eventually gets better. I know they want to keep him there, and maybe you see a Paredes move to second base, for example. But right now, he looks pretty comfortable at that position and gives you a little bit of sock at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, I want to bring up, because you're so far out. Have you officially one pick to stick yet? Because
I have not one pick to stick, and it's a long way to go, man. It's only 1 month deep. Remember, I had a huge lead last year, and SEMO caught me, and I finished third. So I'm trying not to jinx myself hard.
Well, the reason is why. Pardon me, that I'll take it all back. But with that said, though, Jonathan Scope. I just shudder to think where this team would be if CJ Cron was healthy. I mean, those two guys have been great acquisitions. I mean, 16-16, what to say? I said that they were going to win, 27 games this year. And the next win that the Tigers have, which could come tonight in Milwaukee, they'll tie the Red Wings for victories this year.
Well, think about this. They've won as many games this year against Minnesota at home than they did all of last year. Last year, they were 2-8 at Comerica Park against the Twins. Wow. This year, they're 3-0 against the Twins at Comerica Park. That says something, and that's a good Minnesota lineup, right? Somebody said to me the other day, yeah, but one was a doubleheader and both were 7 innings. I said, hold on, man. They were up 8-2 after 7. So you're trying to tell me they weren't going to hold on with that bullpen, the way they've been pitching at the back end of that bullpen? Give credit where credit is due. Have there been some disappointments? Sure. During a 9-game slide, you're bound to find that. But I think this team has proven that there is no quit, that they take on the personality of their manager. I love how recently they've been aggressive on the base paths. I hope that continues. And I love that their defense has been steadily improved. You mentioned Jonathan Scope. He's a big reason. CJ Cron was a big reason as well. And Jacoby Jones is back to the way he was playing a couple of years ago in center field. So, I don't know about the number of victories, Art. I'm not going to say they're going to sweep Minnesota this weekend when they play them either. I just think this is a much different team with a much different feel. When you lose 9 in a row, it can easily spiral out of control. How many games in a row that would be, I don't know. But to come back and beat the teams that they beat in the Cubs, who were in first place in their division, the Indians, who are close to first place in their division, and then Minnesota, who was in first place in their division when they came to Comerica Park, tells you an awful lot about the way this team is headed.
I couldn't agree more. There's so many areas I really want to touch upon, but let's look at starting pitching. The bullpen looks for real, and I don't want to curse them either. And we can go on. Is Soto now the legitimate closer? You think Jimenez could win that back? But before we get there, I'm really curious. Boyd looks like he's figuring it out. Mize is only going to get better. Skubal, I'm a big fan of right now. Spencer Turnbull, he might go a little bit up and down, but I think he'll have more ups than he will down. I'm starting to like where the starting pitching is, and I'll be honest with you, Shep. I know they're playing a lot of doubleheaders coming up here soon, but these 7-inning doubleheaders, I think if the Tigers starting pitching holds up, really, really plays out well for them. Yeah. I mean, things are falling in nicely for the Tigers.
For a guy who loves hockey, you know an awful lot about baseball. I'm with you on that, man. I think First of all, I think the rain out the other day really helped the Tigers bullpen. I mean, because they've relied on him so much. So quietly, that was a win-win for the Tigers. Second of all, you're right. I think with the Skubal and Mize additions, it has, tough to say legitimized, but it has really kind of fortified the starting rotation for this team. Spencer Turnbull was outstanding last time out. He does have some ups and downs. You would like him to get through some quicker innings so he could go deeper into the game. I'm sure that will come. You're right, Matthew Boyd, the last 3 outings, his ERA a little bit around 3.3, pretty darn good. And I think Skubal and Mize will continue to get better as well. Think of this, Art. If this team had the opportunity, and I'm rooting for Michael Fulmer and a Daniel Norris combo tonight, but if this team had the opportunity to add a Manning or a Perez or a Faedo to this starting staff, how much more exciting it would be, because Manning's got unbelievable stuff, and some think that Franklin Perez has the best stuff. But we know Manning and Faedo have been shut down with right forearm strains. That's what you're looking at. This team, I've been guilty of this, Art, where we're looking for position players to come up and make their impact. You win with pitching and defense first and foremost. Detroit has gotten very good, dare I say, great bullpen pitching this season. I'm generalizing. They've had a subpar starting staff until recently, but their defense has greatly improved. That's why they're staying in games. That's how they're winning. And that could be the formula moving forward for a short period of time until they're able to get Riley Green in there in an everyday lineup, Spencer Torkelson on an everyday contract, Parker Meadows, an everyday player. That's how it's going to have to be. And sprinkle in a free agent signing here or there, but the pitching and the defense are going to carry you.
Well, certainly, I mean, giving teams extra outs is a recipe for disaster. And a couple of times where where the Tigers have played sloppy ball, it has not worked out well for them. Real quickly, I know we're jumping around here, but do you think Soto is the answer as the closer right now? Do you like that? I mean, Buck Farmer, definitely the 8th inning guy. I like Tyler Alexander. Kyle Funkhauser's starting to make a little bit of a move. Cisnero, I mean, they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I do. I really like Cisnero and what he's done recently. I think the beauty is right now they've got a few guys. I wouldn't count Joe Jimenez out yet. I don't think that's necessary. But here's what Jack Morris and Kirk Gibson and Dan Petrie and Craig Monroe have always told me. If you're going to have a guy at the back end of your bullpen, the most important pitch is pitch 1, and it's got to be strike 1. If you can't throw strikes, then you're going to have a problem. Ideally, you'd love strike 1 and an out pitch, right? Gregory Soto does that for the most part. Jose Cisnero does that for the most part. Joe Jimenez used to do that, needs to get better at that, can't keep falling behind batters. Look what he did against Nelson Cruz the other day. He got him on a 3-pitch strikeout, or a 4-pitch strikeout, excuse me. That's exactly what Joe Jimenez has to do, and hopefully that gives him some confidence moving forward. I think the beauty right now, Art, is that you've got a lot of options, and that's a good thing. I know people think, oh, it's like having 3 quarterbacks. If you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have one. Detroit's got some legitimate arms at the back end of that bullpen, and Ron Gardenhire, based on the situation, should feel comfortable using any of them.
Well, I'm excited. We haven't even gotten into the everyday players yet, or the positional players. I love the Rule 5 draft. The Tigers seem to do pretty well when they pluck people out of there. The emergence of Miggy. But with that said, we'll have to save it for another time, Matt. But I really do appreciate your time today. Have a good call tonight against the Brewers, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
All right, buddy. Always enjoy the visit.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer, only 96 calories, and of course, it is delicious and available for delivery. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Art. I'm being serious when I say that I could listen to you and Shep talk forever. But we are going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, bring in Carly Johnston for this one. She's got all the good stuff for us today. I've been using that word stuff because I never know what we're going to get. That's what's so exciting. It could be questions. It could be fun posts. Who knows? It could be crazy art drawings. I don't know.
It's not crazy art drawings today, but there are questions and a Twitter post from the Detroit Tigers. Okay, first up, we've got a question for Art. All right, we had a Facebook question for you. One of the fans want to know, what do you think the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman have been doing during the offseason. And I only want the wrong answer. I don't want to hear that they've been practicing. I want to hear what else they've been doing.
Well, I think probably in the Red Wings case, the players, I think they've been working out. I think they've been fishing, and I think they've been golfing, and kind of hanging out with significant others and family, that kind of stuff. What has Steve been doing? I believe that Steve is scouring reports and looking at video, and he is definitely trying to build this team to make it I know he says patience, but I really think that he was annoyed by the way the draft lottery came out. And I think that, that number 4 pick, because it's wide open, as we've been saying, once the first 3 are gone, and it's going to be Lafreniere, Byfield, and Stützle in Lafreniere 1, and then, the other 2, depending on what LA does, and then, of course, Ottawa. I think that he wants to make sure, and nothing is a given, and I know Steve realizes that this 4 pick is going to be an impact player for the Detroit Red Wings, someone that could have hopefully a legitimate shot at maybe the way this all plays out, maybe even making the roster this year. And I think he's really looking for a legitimate difference maker and a goal scorer. So I think that's what they've been doing. I think Steve is all business. The Red Wing players themselves working out, but mostly play. Steve is work.
So you really only think they've been working out and fishing? Like what, or hey, I should say, who do you think has had the most fun this offseason on the Detroit Red Wings team?
Well, a couple of guys got engaged, right? Or was Bertuzzi already engaged and Fabre? So, obviously those are huge moments in their life. So I'm sure that's pretty good. Dylan's the king of Detroit, right? So I'm sure he's enjoying his life. He and those 3 other knuckleheads that he hangs out with, his 2 cousins and brother. Look, they're young athletes. I think fun is part of what they do. Plus, but they're very serious. That's why I do think that they're working out. They'll get up, they'll go to the gym in the morning. They'll try to find ice. I don't even know if ice rinks are open now, or if they can go in. And I think they work on their craft. And then I think they do whatever they do on leisure time. Maybe if they're into sports cars or something, maybe they buy some cars. I don't know. They have a little bit of disposable cash, something that when I have disposable cash, I buy a hot dog maker. That's about as far as it goes. That's about as far as it goes. Right, you buy broccoli, and Daniela. We know Daniela. She buys sports equipment because she is quite the athlete. How many records do you still hold at Anchor Bay High School? Like dozens, right?
To the test, you need to put your money where your mouth is, for lack of a better saying.
I will happily admit that, but I had a prime, a very good prime.
Love it. All right, Danielle, let's head on over to you. We have another question from Facebook. What do the Red Wings need to do to get over the hump? So this will be for the 2020-2021 season. How weird is that to say?
Yeah, I like this question, but I don't think you can actually peg an exact answer to this because I'm sorry to say this, but I don't think there is one thing that the Red Wings need to get them over that hump. There are a lot of things that the Red Wings need to get them over the hump. And if the hump is making the playoffs, let's just assume that's what we're talking about here. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a few years. So the number one thing fans need is patience. The Red Wings are going to have to address their goaltending situation, which we are all pretty sure they're going to address in this upcoming free agency. They need more goal scoring, which another thing we hope that may be addressed in the draft. That's something that we don't know, but I think we do need to trust Steve Yzerman's plan too in his development of prospects. He has a great prospect in Moritz Seider in his first draft. And of course, a lot of other prospects in that draft as well. So, and he knows how to build a team. If you listen to what Ken Daniels had to say about the Tampa Bay Lightning earlier in the show, Steve Yzerman really did build that team, but he got there in 2010. That took 10 years for them to get to the point where they are right now, playing in another Eastern Conference championship. So he definitely knows how to build a team. So I think for fans, patience really is the number one thing that they need for the team. They need improvement everywhere. Let's just be completely honest with the goal scoring and everything. You've got to hope that guys like Philip Zadina really come into their own come next season, and Tyler Bertuzzi stays where he's at and continues to get better. Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha also doing the same. Steve Yzerman said that he plans on naming a captain this season, so I think that's something that will be huge for the Red Wings. But Bradley, I know that was probably the worst answer to your question, but there really isn't one thing that the Red Wings need right now. There's a lot of improvement overall, and I think you just need to be patient and trust the process. We say that a lot, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the Detroit Red Wings saying. Trust the process. Art's raising his hand.
Carly, what I really think Daniela was trying to say to Bradley was, Bradley, I wish it were just a hump the Red Wings have to get over.
Yeah.
Maybe where they're at right now, this is Mount Everest. I mean, this is, this is, they still have a long ascent here. To get up to the top, but they've got the right guy in charge, and Pat Verbeek too. I know Ken Daniels mentioned Pat Verbeek. Pat Verbeek does a great job. Chris Draper's ahead of amateur scouting right now, and then you've got Steve, who is the buck stops with Steve. He'll make the final decision, and I'm pretty sure that I think he saw like Mo Sider play 5 or 6 times last year, and he's constantly checking players out. He's going over to Europe all the time. So it's going to take a little bit longer. But if it were a hump, then I would say that if it's hump, they're just going to need consistent goaltending if it were a hump. But it's not.
Well, I saw a tweet just last night, this Tampa Bay team that's playing pretty well. Someone said that's the team that Steve Yzerman built. So it's all about the future right now. Looking ahead to the Red Wings' future. All right, so for the last post of Let's Socialize, the Detroit Tigers tweeted something pretty cool. We know we have fans all over the world, so they wanted to know, where do you root from? So I'm going to read some of the locations they got on Twitter. They got Costa Rica. From Costa Rica to Sweden. Someone said Detroit. Gloucester, England. Czech Republic, Slovakia, St. Thomas, Ontario, Jacksonville, Florida, Arkansas, Spain. I mean, from all over the world. It's so incredible to see how a baseball team can bring people together from quite literally all over the world. So it's really cool. Someone said Melbourne, Australia. It really doesn't stop. I mean, it's in every country. So it was super cool to see. And the Tigers said they would be tweeting out a map to show how far everyone's Detroit roots spread. So look out for that on the Detroit Tigers Twitter. And that's all I have for you guys in this Let's Socialize. It was a good one.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I think the three of us, we might have all the corners of Metro Detroit covered, which is kind of cool.
We do.
Right. Right. Livonia. Livonia, right here.
New Baltimore.
New Baltimore.
We're like a triangle.
That's awesome.
Well, this is great. Danielle, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Carly. That was great as always. A big thank you to AAA for presenting Let's Socialize. Sorry, guys. Again, I've got a frozen screen. We've come to the end of our show today. Another big thank you to AAA. Art, I'll bring you back for one more question because we have a couple of minutes before the end of the show. And I want to ask you one more thing about the Tigers because we're just about a half hour away from the pregame show on Fox Sports Detroit, which all of you should be tuning into. Again, that starts at 6:30. And after talking with Matt Shepard, we got to talk with Jason Beck, Dan Dickerson, all the Tigers greats. What are you really looking forward to about this series? And did it change your X factor at all? Or are you still sticking with Victor Reyes and Jeimer Candelario?
It really hasn't. I think the Tigers have to be patient at the plate. I think that they have to work the count a little bit. I know that Josh Lindblom, has 6 pitches, but not a really commanding fastball, but he does get a lot of strikeouts. That's because if he's striking out, that means virtually almost every 6, if he's getting a lot of strikeouts, all 6 pitches are working. But, where the Candyman is at right now, Victor Reyes, trading Maben, he has an everyday position right now. So I think they're the X factors, but and nothing against Milwaukee. I mean, Detroit is ascending. Milwaukee's a bit declining, even though it's on the road. And I know the Brewers used to be in the American League and they're longtime rivals and all that kind of stuff. But I think that these are games that the Tigers, if they really want to contend and make the playoffs, they beat Milwaukee. They just go right out there, a team that's struggling a little bit, and they beat them. They're riding a hot streak. They got to capitalize. I equate this series much like I did when they went into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wasn't playing well, and they swept them. Milwaukee, better team than Pittsburgh. Gosh, Livonia Franklin's probably better than Pittsburgh down the street here. But I would say that you've got to take advantage of how the schedule lays out, how it presents itself. I think Milwaukee's beatable. Take 2 games from Milwaukee.
All right, Art, I like it. Like I said, we can tune in to that Tigers game tonight. First pitch is 7:40. Pregame begins on Fox Sports Detroit at 6:30. Or, of course, you can listen to that on 97.1 The Ticket. If you missed anything on today's show or you want to catch up on some past Word on Woodward episodes, you can check out the Word on Woodward YouTube page. It has all of the interviews that we've ever done for the show. And, of course, you can listen to it as a podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You guys make sure you tune in this Thursday. We will be back at 4 p.m. ahead of the Tigers game. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks so much for watching.